Most of us go to a chiropractor for the first time for a specific reason. Something hurts, something isn't working, we have an issue, we have a condition. But this story today highlights something that millions of chiropractic patients have discovered, that chiropractic is about more than just treating pain. Hi, I'm Jenna Quinton, founder of Adjust Your Media, host of What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate podcast, and today I have a chiropractic student from Sherman Chiropractic College. She is working in clinic and working with patients and seeing amazing things. She also shares her vision for the future and her journey of how she got into this in the first place. As always, check the show notes for more information. Today on What Chiropractic Doesn't Cure, Stories of Innate, I have Frances Hawkins. Thanks for joining me.
I am so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, well, it's my privilege, especially because you're a student and so you have a unique and beautiful perspective to share with us. So I always ask people to tell us a story. So tell us a story about somebody whose life has just been improved with chiropractic care.
Absolutely. I think with chiropractic care, I see so many lives, including my own, just improved with care. For instance, I have a patient of my own now, and this patient, she came to me with neck pain. Something I always tell my patients is that pain is the last thing to show up, but it's the first thing to go away. So I'm not really concerned about your pain staying or going, though it is important. And one thing that, we've been under care for about 8 weeks now, and she's having some issues in her personal life, but her complaint is no longer about pain. She understood that, it's gone, but that was never, the main cause anyways. But what she is noticing is that she's able to deal with these personal issues. I believe the issues are with her marriage. She's able to deal with these in stride and coming in regularly to get her atlas checked just to make sure she can take that deep breath and breathe and be able to function better. And she says she notices it, and she's wanting to get her husband under care so that he can deal with his stress better in a way that's productive. And she understands that if he didn't have a vertebral subluxation, maybe he would be less anxious or just maybe impulsive even. So I just understand that chiropractic, when done correctly at the right place and at the right time, and even with the right intent, can be very healing, and it has been for her. And I'm just believing in the Lord that it'll be healing for her family as well.
Yeah, there's so many good points that you bring up in this. I love the fact that, people come in with a specific issue, like you said, neck pain, where you're like, oh, this is really affecting my life. I need to get this taken care of. But then seeing what you're impacting is really their nervous system. So tell us a little bit about how impacting their nervous system is then helping them, like you said, to deal with tension better and take that deeper breath.
Yes. Yeah, so the subluxation is caused by thoughts, traumas, and toxins. And that affects the nervous system directly because it causes interference. This we know, especially as a chiropractor. However, the peace comes when those thoughts or those external traumas, when there's something that are kind of out of our control, you can't really control someone else's choices or the decisions, but you control how you handle them. And how can you handle them? That subluxation interfering in that place where, like the brainstem, that one particular part where I can handle this with self-control. If that's interfered with, you might blow a gasket. And that's just the truth. I know with my own experiences, I can be a lot less temperamental when my atlas is subluxated than when it's corrected.
Yeah. So I thought about this yesterday. I had a very unique Sunday for me. My husband is a firefighter. He's at the fire station. My children were actually with my sister for the weekend. So I was all by myself. And you would think, that would be the smoothest, easiest morning, right? To just get myself ready for church all alone. But I kind of lost track of time, and then I was scrambling and I was like, I'm going to be late. I'm going to be 10 minutes late. And that specifically has been a trigger for me to just put pressure on myself. Something that, like you talk about stress and adapting to that stress, being able to, like your patient's husband, being able to handle his stress better. We all are late at some point in our life. It just happens. Even on the perfect golden Sunday morning, we're all late. But like you said, being temperamental or being able to just handle it and being able to go with the flow and be like, you know what? I'll miss the first 2 songs. It's okay. It's okay. Well, I'll just slip in the back. I only need one seat for me. It's going to be easy to find a seat. It's okay. It's still a good morning. And what I really realized was as I was walking in, I was like, I'm so calm. I'm not even stressed about this. And it was kind of one of those mile markers for me, like you said, for your patient. It wasn't just out of pain, but she's noticing other mile markers along her journey. And for me yesterday, it was, I'm not having a meltdown because I'm late for church.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just as simple as that. But for some people, it can be the difference between life and death.
Yeah, it really can, especially like you said, the brainstem that's handling a lot of our vital functions. And like you mentioned, being able to take a deep breath. And so many people don't realize that their posture has changed with that subluxation. You know, we're all curled in, we're all rolled over our devices, and we're not really having an upright posture and breathing in. And then, like you mentioned, the brainstem controlling breath and vital functions. If that's impacted, then how are you going to be able to function well?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, you might survive the moment, but how can you thrive in that moment, really?
Yes. And I realized too, all of those tiny stressors, all of those tiny stressful moments, it's not about being late once and having a meltdown. Like, there's grace and everybody moves on. But when it's stacked all day long and all day after every day, and then year after year, you know, you said thoughts and toxins and traumas. So tell us a little bit about when you're doing a patient history, what kinds of questions are you asking? How are you doing an evaluation to find out where's the stress impacted them?
Absolutely. So I think Sherman does a great job of this. We do a very thorough case history where we're asking them, of course, their primary reason for care, what complaint they're coming in with. But we go a step deeper and ask, like, when did this happen? What were you doing when this happened? And even just being transparent and direct and asking them, how has this impacted your your daily life? In what ways has this affected your daily living? And asking those direct questions when you have a patient in that state where they're in that pain state whenever they're talking about a complaint. You know, a patient can be talking about their history of breaking their arm. And sometimes, especially when that trauma is not necessarily healed, maybe physically, but maybe not healed mentally, talking about it brings you right back to that place, right back to the 8-year-old you when you fell off the tree and broke your arm. So it's in that space that, you know, that good, how does this affect your daily living? That question is like at the forefront. It's easy to answer because they're right there, 8 years old, you know. So whenever you have a patient coming in with these stresses and it's mentally affecting them, taking them back to that place, mentally, emotionally, is what affects and how we can get better answers to all of the questions that we need so we can track their care and be more objective.
Yeah. Well, and I like that you mentioned that because sometimes in a layperson's mind, in the general public, we think, I mean, yeah, I had a minor car wreck like 10 years ago, but, you know, I was fine. I walked away and everything. But then they don't associate that with, oh, I do have neck pain now. Was there some whiplash injury that was never addressed specifically and with chiropractic? So I think that's really important. So I do want to ask, what brought you into chiropractic? You have a lot of enthusiasm. You're very involved in different chiropractic things. What brought you into this profession?
Well, thanks for asking that. I love telling this story because I was living very under my potential. I had gotten on, I don't know, what is it, care.com, wherever you can become a sitter. And I got connected with this family. The family had 2 girls and I was tasked with taking them to their appointments and nannying for them as the mom worked as a pharmacist. One of those appointments I took those 2 girls to was to the chiropractor, Dr. Anthony Lopez, who you may know. And I took them to their appointments, sometimes on time, rarely. Sometimes I'd be so late that they'd miss their appointment for that day and we'd have to go the next day. So some very interesting beginning starts there. And then 2 years later, I ended up becoming a practice member under his care myself. But I was still living under my potential. And it's about 2020 and I'm moseying on in the office, probably late, probably early, but definitely not on time. And he just stops me and asks me, he says, well, what are you doing with your life? And I said, I don't know. I just went back to school and I'm going to start my major was business. And so I'm like, I'm going to graduate with business and I'm just going to start a business like for holistic health. And he was like, so what does that mean to you? I was like, I just know if you take care of the body will take care of you. And he said, Frances, it sounds like you're supposed to be a chiropractor. And I said, no, I don't think so. And then it was just like that. And my reasoning is because I had just switched to business. I was thinking I was going to have to switch over to another major, and I had changed my major on paper 7 times. And so I had been on and off of school for like 6 years at that point and haven't really made any movement towards getting an undergraduate degree at that point in my life. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not changing my major again just to do this. And then 2 years later in 2022, I wake up from a dream. And as I'm waking up from whatever dream I had, which is like, I remember my dreams a lot, but this was the one dream I didn't write it down. It left me. And that's because as I'm waking up and coming back into consciousness, the first sentence I hear is, I'm supposed to be a chiropractor. And I'm like, wow. So Dr. Anthony back in 2020 gave me Sherman pamphlets to like contact him and go see the school. I did not do that at the time. Instead, I put them in my coffee table where they lay for those 2 years. And so I went to that coffee table downstairs and I grabbed it, and all of a sudden I'm just like sending them emails and contacting them my interests. And then I get in touch with the admissions counselor and we figure out a time for me to go to showcase. And so we do all that, and I go back to Dr. Anthony's office and I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to be a chiropractor, like out of nowhere, out of the blue. And I'm like, I'm going to go to showcase. I'm so excited. So I did go to that showcase, and August 2022 was my showcase. And I remember Dr. Ed Cordero and Dr. Neil Cohen going up there, and I was very intentional about just being so prayerful and just guided my entire way through, because I really wanted to make the right choice, because I'm moving 8.5 hours away from my family. And I was just like, is this what the Lord is bringing me to? And so I'd be praying in my prayer journal, just writing out so much, my thoughts, my prayers, and that was like at 6 a.m. of every morning of the showcase. Showcase is 2 days, and I would go and have the showcase, and Dr. Neil Cohen was saying verbatim exactly what I had written in my prayer journal, like as if he read this sentence I wrote. And so that was like major confirmation to me, and I just had this vision of just being here and succeeding. I remember I started my application that weekend, and there was an admissions enrollment from the enrollment team there and counselor. And he was like, yeah, you can make a C here, you can make a C there, but just don't make it too much, because at the time I was only making like B's and C's, maybe even drop in the class if my grade was too low. So say all that to say, my response to him saying you can make a C here or there, but just not make it 2 and more than 1 semester, I said I'm never going to make a C again. And I didn't make a C. I went back home and I upped my course load to 7 courses a semester. I was originally only taking 2 a semester and just like, chipping at the bit. I took 7 in the fall, 7 in the spring, 5 in the summer, and then 6 in the fall. And I graduated a 1.5 years early, a year earlier than I was supposed to, going at the track that I was. And then I also made all A's every semester. So I got a 4.0 every semester after that. And what went from being a very like conditional admission to Sherman College was no longer like conditional. I just had the great GPA that I needed, coming from so low. But that's just because I was under my potential versus tapped into my potential.
That is awesome. And now you graduate from Sherman College. How soon?
Next June.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that is really cool. And it's really amazing that you have, once you decided and you were locked in, that you had that kind of intention and purpose. And like, that's exactly like when I look at my children, I have a little 8-year-old who's just this perfect little angel, honestly. And like, who would I want to take him to? And to hear like, that's the passion and the intention that you have for chiropractic. It's like, here's my kiddo, check him out, so I love that. And I think that that's really important for people to know that when they're looking for a chiropractor, that they're looking for somebody who has that much heart. But like you said with Dr. Anthony, just asking the bold question, just asking it out loud and just saying like, I want to help you to reach your potential, whether that's however that is. These are the people who, as families, we want care from. So that is really cool. So I want to know, what is your vision? What is your, dream for the health of the world? You said you always wanted a holistic health business. So what do you see happening? What are you wanting to do in the world?
Right. So my vision is that every man, woman, child walks this earth serving the Lord and having a nervous system free of interference. And any way that I can make that possible in my obedience to Jesus Christ is the way I'm going to do it. And right now it looks like just clearing out as many spines as I can, but from a right and correct heart space. So being humble, willing, and obedient to the voice of God within, but actually doing that from a heart space, not just in talk, but in deed, by faith and through grace, really.
Yeah, by faith and through grace. Yes. I think that goes so much beyond treating something. Like, oh, I'm going to treat headaches. In marketing, and since you're a business major, the things that you apply from that. But when they talk about, I think it's Simon Sinek, maybe, has an example where he says, nobody just wants a drill. You're not like, oh, I really want this drill. Like, you want the drill for what it's used for, which is, to drill a hole in your wall. But we don't just want holes in our walls. Like, that's ridiculous. Why do we want a hole in our wall? Well, so that we can hang something up. Well, why do you want to hang something up? Because it's a picture of my family. It's a picture of a beautiful moment at the beach with my family, and I would like to hang it up. So then it becomes, we're not talking about, do you want a drill? We're saying, you want to see this picture of your family in your home every day. The drill's going to help you. And I think it comes back to chiropractic in that what you're talking about is not, I want to help people to not have sciatica anymore. You're not treating these things. Your vision is so much bigger to how people are living, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, in community. It really touches all aspects of our human existence, when we can be clear and connected.
Yes, clear and connected is the main key here.
Yeah, I love that too, because like I said, I have 4 kids, and when I talk to chiropractors, I love hearing the passion and the drive to make the world a healthier place for those children, so that my grandkids will be able to, go find a chiropractor who understands these principles wherever they live. So that my daughter, if she is having her own baby, that she can get a Webster certified chiropractor to make sure they have the best experience possible. So I love that that's what you're doing, and we're excited for you to graduate and start.
Lord willing.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for sharing all of this. Is there anything that you would like to add that you just wish all families and individuals knew who are maybe a little bit hesitant about just checking out chiropractic?
Right. So I think there's a lot of misconception that chiropractic, you just go in, they crack your back, and then you're fixed until the next time, when that's not the case at all. It is a relentless connection that happens every time, where we're instilling the communication, or just uninterrupting the communication from brain to body consistently with amazing and clear and connected content. So that's it.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you for sharing.